Good evening. I am Julianne Boyer, a member of the San Joaquin County League of Women Voters and your moderator this evening. On behalf of the League of Women Voters, please meet our co-sponsors this evening. The first, Nancy Martinez from Lodi AAUW has not joined us yet. And then also Steve Mann. Steve, can you put on your video and wave your hand so we can see who you are? He probably is still away from his computer. Well, Steve represents the Lodi News Sentinel and will be asking questions this evening as well. We want to welcome you to this evening's Candidates Forum. Your host, the League of Women Voters, is a nonpartisan political organization. We neither support nor oppose any political party or candidate at any level of government. Membership in the League is open to all men and women who would like to become active, informed, politically effective members of their community. Please check our website, my.lwv.org/San Joaquin County for further information. We organize forums like this one to promote the informed and active participation of citizens in government. A few rules for this Zoom online forum. Everyone but the speaker will be muted. Questions have been collected from a variety of sources and will be asked of each candidate. The chat function is disabled. You are able to use speaker view, which is usually in your upper left-hand corner, or upper right-hand corner, excuse me, to better see each candidate. And a recording is being made for posting to our YouTube channel. The focus of the forum this evening will be the candidates of the Lodi City Council District 4. This is the first election cycle for District 4 rather than citywide elections. And I'm going to share with you a screen that shows the map of the city districts. Some of you may or may not be familiar with them. And as a new resident to Lodi, I found this very informative. This is District 4 right here in the grayish. And that map is available at the city clerk's website. This, the shared screen you see, you'll see the districts outlined, as the candidates will appear in the order in which they will appear on your ballot. There are 4 candidates for District 4 seat, but only 3 are appearing this evening. Our format this evening will be a modified debate format. Each candidate will be allotted 2 minutes for an opening statement. After the opening statement, we will move to a period of questions gathered from a variety of sources and reviewed by the League. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to answer each question. The order of answering will be rotated based upon the opening order. At the end of the question period, each candidate will have 2 minutes to give a closing statement, and the order of speaking will be in the reverse order of the opening statement. In the interest of fairness and the equal allocation of time, all answers will be timed and time limits will be enforced. Our timer is Julia Tyak. Julia, wave up there in the corner. She will be giving a 30-second warning and then a audio and a visual look so that you should be able to both see and hear her comment, that 30 seconds, and then a signal to stop when time has expired. We ask each candidate to please adhere to the time limits. So the first speaker this evening will be Ms. Natalie Bowman. Please take 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Natty. I will be appearing first on the ballot, so that's Fun to know. It's a lottery system. It's not alphabetical. So my program platform and stance is actually the most progressive out of the four running for District 4. Unfortunately, Mr. Schock couldn't join us today. My biggest issues that I'll be addressing are, number one, viable solutions for addressing the homelessness. My work both in a nonprofit capacity, founding a nonprofit that serves District 4. We work on a daily basis with the homeless population, and also my work as a paralegal for a small law firm here in Lodi. Both of those roles have informed my platform, but also just talking to the citizens and my neighbors up and down our streets, and as we've been canvassing the last few years. I'm also a native Lodian, so I've seen this kind of transition that's happened in our city, and am very excited to have the opportunity to talk about my plans and policies. So viable solutions for the homeless and the unhoused is the number one priority that I'm focused on. I'm a strong supporter of the Tiny Houses program, as well as a navigational center here in District 4 or close to it. It is where our services can best serve.
30 seconds.
And thanks, Julia, I'm sorry. And the next important one that we'll be focusing on is safe and affordable housing, using development agreements and partnerships with our local realtors and both landlords and tenants to provide that. In addition, our green spaces, our sidewalks, our streets, even though there's a lot of money that goes into District 4, how we spend it and the priorities we worked on. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Our next speaker will be Joanne Mounts. Joanne?
Hi there, and thank you so much for hosting this really great opportunity. You know, for those of you who don't know, I am a third-generation Lodian. My grandfather came here in 1932 and opened up the first welding shop, and since then, I guess that's been 85 years ago, there has been a Mounts business owner in the city of Lodi. Very proud of that. I also, for my day job that pays my mortgage, I also work at Doherty CPAs, and I am a tax preparer and accountant. So those tools in my tool belt have been extremely helpful as I navigate through an over $200 million budget each year. Over the years, I feel that I have advocated and fought for several programs for the East Side, and I'm going to just list a few of my accomplishments. Over the last year, we reduced crime by 2% throughout the city of Lodi. We ensured the graffiti abatement program, which, by the way, the East Side Improvement Committee started 25 years ago. And this last year, we removed 1,400 tags in neighborhoods throughout the East Side. I advocated for the new East Side Fire Station, which provides safe timeliness and support for our East Side neighbors. Added new police to the police role. Helped the gang intervention program, reducing gang activity and helping youth on the East Side. This last year, I secured grants and was able to give every student on the East Side and throughout the city of Lodi a free bus ride to school, and even after and on weekends. The alley replacement program is trucking right along. We're finally replacing our aging infrastructure with the water meter program. And those are just a few things.
Thank you, Joanne. Our next candidate is Mr. Ramon Yepes. Mr. Yepes?
Oh, hi. So good evening. Thank you for hosting this forum. So I'm going to talk about my background. So I grew up in District 4 and I have lived for most of my life in District 4. I graduated from Lodi High. And after that, I did my undergrad at University of Pacific in economics. And then later did master's degrees in economics and data science. My work has taken me overseas. I used to work at the USA Embassy in Madrid. I also have worked at the USDA. In Sacramento, I worked for a economic development company that was trying to bring businesses to Sacramento. And also I have worked at the USDA. and currently I work for a startup as a data science in biotech. I'm running because I grew up in this district, so we have felt that we've been neglected by the city council, and we feel that it's time for us to have a voice in the city council. I know the issues growing up here, obviously, and also by talking with voters in the last 2 months. So I know that my work experience and my lab experience being a resident of this district have prepared me well to be in the city council. This election is about staying stuck in the past or moving forward, Lodi. And I invite you voters to find out more about my platform that is infrastructure, homelessness, and reforming the police, so we can take Lodi forward. Thank you, and God bless America.
Thank you, Mr. Yepes. We'll move now to the questions and answers for District 4. So I'm going to ask the first question, and the first answer will come from Ms. Bowman, and then Ms. Mounts, and then Mr. Yepes, and then we'll rotate that. So the first question is, how would you successfully solve the homelessness issue in Lodi? So Natalie?
Right off the bat, one of the most important issues that we're facing today here in Lodi and also up and down California. As I mentioned in the opening, I guess, the number one thing I think we can do is to provide high levels of services that are very well informed services. So for example, our tiny homes and our navigational center. Those two projects are very important. One, because the tiny homes do not require any direct funding or taxpayer money, right? It's all grant-based, funding from the city. There are peripheral things, but we have $1.25 million grant going for that. So that's a big reason too. A lot of people who believe that the tiny houses is going to be a homeless encampment, or the navigational center will be, but it's actually been informed by not only the local entities at the city and the county. Oh, hello. I'm sorry, that's my dog. She wants to come inside. She hopped right up at the window and was like, hello.
Yeah.
No, you are not part of this forum. She thinks she's part of everything. So the tiny houses in the navigational center, having them locally close provides access to the services. There are already homeless people around in the streets, so it's not a viable option to have them outside of the city. They need to be close to where services are provided, otherwise they won't be utilized. In addition, the city has a legal obligation, if it does not have the beds to provide housing for the homeless, then they do actually have to allow homeless people to be staying in our public spaces. So those are kind of two big things that have been topics of discussion a lot the last couple months here in Lodi. As far as a more progressive, long-term platform for this, some of the other things that we can do is the preventative care. I've said this before, preventative care is clean. It really is. It is always less expensive and more helpful to our fellow human beings to address preventative care and provide that, so that people don't get to the place where they can't afford to have a house, or they are in generational trauma, right? Where they're in the foster care system, like the kids that I work with on a daily basis, whose parents often become homeless, and then it's a repetitive cycle. So some of it is the front end, and a lot of it is thinking down the line. What can we do to actually address the core issues that are causing homelessness, and tackle those at the same time? So my platform is very much a multi-layered platform for homelessness. And just as kind of an FYI for everything else, you can find those policies at nattybowman.com.
Thank you. And now Ms. Mounts.
Thank you so much. You know, this is a tough one. And when the question came about, you said solving homelessness. Well, I remember Hale Park as a child, and back then they were called bums. I suspect 20 years from now, they'll be called something else. But we will never solve homelessness in the state of California or, of course, in the city of Lodi, no matter how many millions of dollars we throw at it. One of the unique opportunities I had as president of the League of California Cities was to work with the state of California. And on everyone's tax returns that have been making over $1 million a year in the state of California, there's a tax of 1%, and that tax is for mental health services. Well, there was billions of dollars sitting up at the state of California, but no plan to get it down to the people to actually use it. So I worked with the president of our state legislator and was able to get past the No Place Like Home ordinance, which allowed for all the money that was being collected on tax returns to actually make their way down to the counties so that we can start distributing funding and grants for homelessness services. So yes, we have, the city has in fact received a grant for tiny houses, but that grant isn't enough to do what we have to do. And unfortunately, if we move forward with this, city funds will have to be used to make that project pencil out. As for navigation center, I just don't see that in any stretch of the imagination in the city of Lodi. How do they say, if you build it, they will come? And the council has said to our staff, we do not want a navigation center at the Armory. We do not want the tiny houses next to the Tom Chapman Field. We want that to be exclusive for other uses. So now it's a matter of looking for some property that we can actually move the homeless onto. And I don't mean by providing a Taj Mahal, but I'm thinking more of restrooms, services, and a building for all of the services, as Ms. Bowman mentioned, that are available in the city of Lodi to help these folks find their way. Most of which do not live, are not from the city of Lodi. So let's find their way home. We have a wonderful liaison. We need to add more services to that liaison department through the police department, through city services, other than policing, and help these folks find their way. We can do that. And I think it will mitigate the number of homeless that we have wandering in our streets that are on drugs and have mental health problems.
Okay.
Thank you. And now, Mr. Yepes, your response.
Oh, hi. So yeah, like we have with the other candidates I've been saying, yeah, the homeless is a very complicated issue. For example, the city council published a study from 2015 when they. So when we start talking about homeless, we need to involve the whole community and the homeless community itself too. We need to ask them, what do they need? What can you do? We need to ask them too. For example, in that study, they found out that only 20% of the homeless are actually likely to seek services or they want services. 80%, they're not interested. They're not interested in their service. They don't trust us. So we cannot be focusing on everybody because that's just using resources that these 20% want to get help. So my idea is to focus on this 20% and the tiny projects in neighborhoods such as in the HF District 4 is not liable. We cannot put it where neighborhoods are because it will destroy the property taxes of everybody that lives there, first of all, and it's gonna make more homeless people to come from Stockton, from other cities, and after that, we're gonna give them more parks around the city until all the east side where I live is taken up by homeless. So I don't believe that. Like, I believe that they're humans. We need to help them, but the solution is not in a neighborhood or in a park. We need to create a navigation center outside the city limits where we can help them get in the mental health that they need and all the support to get jobs and housing so they can move on with their life and get jobs. And that's what I feel. And yeah, like for the tiniest project, we don't even have the money. They say that the committee says that it's gonna come of private donations, but we don't know that that's coming from our tax at the end of the day. So that's why I oppose the tiny projects. First, because it's in a neighborhood, and second, because we don't even have the money to accomplish this goal. That's my position on homelessness. I feel that we need to start from scratch again and talk with people, with the homeless and experts on this, because it's a very big, it's not an issue, it's not a Lodi issue, it's a country issue that I by myself cannot solve. I need the help of the community and experts, I feel like. So thank you, that's my answer.
Thank you. We'll move now to our second question, and we will start with Ms. Mounts, then Mr. Yepes, and then Ms. Bowman. Clear? So here is the question. Do you see institutional racism operating in Lodi? And if so, in what ways? If not, what do you say to people who are concerned about institutional racism? And we're going to start with Ms. Mounts.
Thank you. I have publicly stated that if in the city of Lodi there is any racism built into the systems that we have, that it is my job to eradicate it whenever and often as I see it. You know, having been a third generation Lodian and lived here on the east side for about 75% of my life, I have seen racism firsthand. My partner is an African-American man, and I have held the hand of the man I love while somebody called him the N-word. It doesn't feel good, and it's not right. I will fight it whenever possible. But right now, it seems that everybody is on a heightened sense of anger. And until we start to calm down and we're able to sit at the table together, we'll never be able to address the issues that are clearly in need of addressing. I have asked the city manager to consider bringing the National League of Cities here to Lodi. They have a program called REAL, and it's racism and equality. And they will bring their team of people here with a proven practice on educating the council as well as the public on things that we may not understand in our own communities, and finding a way that we can all come together and start to judge people again, not by the color of their skin, but by the quality of their character, and start building and rebuilding this divisiveness that has hit our country in a way that I have never seen before. And it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But I see that there is a positive path. But until we all sit down at the table and start having these extremely difficult conversations, I think that it's going to be hard pressed for us to bring our society back together and find solutions so that we can stand tall and say that we are an equal opportunity country, state, and city. And whatever I have to do to make that happen, I am all on board. Thank you.
Thank you. And the second responder will be Mr. Yepes.
So I believe, like, yeah, living here in Lodi most of my life, like, and as a member of a minority, especially in school, like in school, I've been faced a systematic racism when I've been the only student in an AP class, and that's not by magic, you know, it's kind of like the system. So, and I applaud the movement, like the Black Lives Matter movement, that they have started creating a conversation, but at the same time, it has created a lot of anger in our society, like Maus was saying, and we need to, maybe in a few months, we can start having this conversation without that much anger. And from the city side, I believe we need to keep track of the, like, how representative the police department represents the city. Like, for example, how many of one race are of the police force are Caucasian, how many are Hispanic, how many are African Americans. We need to publish all that kind of data. So then, and also if Latino owners are getting rejected by permits more than non-Latino, non-Latin owners, like we need, what I feel like to end, not to end, but to alleviate a little bit and make the government a little more transparent, is to publish all kind of this data that the public can see, and then we can see clear, oh yeah, like for example, we see that 90% of the new application of Latinos are getting rejected. that something is going on that we need to address as a city council, as a community, as a city. So my solution from the city part is to start publishing all the data, how the police department is represented, how the permits are awarded to what groups are the society. And that can start a conversation there. Until we have conversations without anger is when we can move forward in Lodi, because I love Lodi, but the things that sometimes I don't like is that sometimes I've been discriminated against, is the things that I don't see when I go to San Francisco, or even when I live in Spain, I never felt that. But so I want to work on that so we can feel not discriminated anymore. That's my answer.
Thank you. Ms. Bowman, the same question.
Yes. Anecdotally, we all have a number of memories or recollections or incidents that we can draw from, everything from how things were back in the 90s to all the way up to the present. Some of the Lodi specific issues that we are facing are disproportionate health outcomes for our Latinx and minority communities. Generally speaking, Black mothers die at a much higher rate than anyone else, even though Lodi's population is less than 2% Black. It does still have an impact. Some of the other health outcomes, right, we've seen with COVID happening, much higher rates. So there's clearly institutional racism occurring there. Maybe it's starting from jobs not giving proper PPE to folks, all the way up to some laws and things that are outside of city control. From the education side, even though city council would have to work with the school district, we're not directly impacting this, but another example of institutional racism that's present today here in Lodi is the lack of translators for the parents who are English as second language learners. So you can imagine having an elementary school kid, generally speaking, those growing up in an English-speaking or predominantly English-speaking society, they will be able to speak English just fine. But if you're a recent immigrant and you're trying to help your kid and you're trying to understand what's going on at this meeting, particularly if your kid is special needs, it can be very challenging if there's not adequate translation. And that puts at a consistent disadvantage down the road kids who come from immigrant communities. We have a very large Mexican population in District 4, about half is Latinx, half is white, which does include our Pakistani communities. In addition, although this has decreased, fortunately, particularly in the 2000s, early 2000s, there was substantial violence against our Muslim and Sikh brothers and sisters. I hope to see that decrease rather than increase, but that is something that does still occur, particularly because of dress, us having a mosque next to Blakely Park. So these are some of the issues that are starting to come up. Sometimes there are little things. For example, a lot of the complaints that we've received have been that the Lodi DMV doesn't offer driver's ed in Urdu, which prevents a lot of people from being able to have a driver's license and get a job. So it's a combination, again, of some very small issues that are much more manageable, as well as kind of this broader social structure, right, that we have against people who don't look like me.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move to the next question. Is Nancy Martinez on the call? I don't see her listed. Nope. Okay. I'm going to ask the following question from Lodi AAUW. Is the Lodi Public Library adequately funded? Why or why not? And we'll start first with Mr. Yepes.
So I'm a fan of the library. Spend all my time there. Even when I have work from home, I go to the library instead of doing it at home. But I feel that it's not right. It is not funded correctly. It needs more funding because on Fridays it's closed. Before even COVID, it was closed. And I feel that we need a new library in District 4. Like I have seen some abandoned churches that are for sale, that we can possibly maybe involve the community so we can fundraise money to open an extension of the library so kids in District 4 can have access to internet, because sometimes they don't have access to the internet in their own homes. And also it can have tutors in math and reading, and even in classes for, like, for example, in my district, a lot of the residents don't speak English. So we can even have classes in English for learning English. So I believe, that we need to increase the budget of the library, because we need a society that, what the libraries do is fascinating. They open people to new ideas, to jobs. Even like when you graduated from college, you can look for jobs. And so it's incredible what libraries do. I'm a fan of the library. So we definitely need to put more resources into the library right now, and even think about the future opening satellite libraries are in different, not even in District 4, but around Lodi. So then kids can go walk to the library, check a book, do their homework. And that's what I'm about. So I think we need to put a little more funding into the library budget.
Thank you. Same question for Natalie Bowman.
Yeah, I think everyone supports the library on the theoretical level, but somehow the library gets kind of put at the bottom when it comes to city services, even though, again, preventative measures, education is one of the best ways that we can reduce unemployment, the homeless, and also we would have higher health and income outcomes from investing in those sorts of things. So a couple of ways that myself and my team and other people have come up with that we can implement as soon as tomorrow here in Lodi to assist with our Lodi library, right? And to be able to get it to that point, because it isn't just about a brick building anymore. Libraries are far more than that. There's a whole slew of online, not just information, but workshops. There's a large repertoire of what someone can do and how they can use the library. And hopefully when COVID ends, right, we'll go back to having those social meetings as well. The library provides so kind of the first part is the library does provide substantial services to our homeless community, everything from a place to be able to charge their phone, to finding out legal services and reading up on the law if they're cited for loitering, having a shopping cart, whatever that might be. And so we can actually use and seek out funding sources directed toward the homeless to invest in our library and expand some of those services. Ramon mentioned the Wi-Fi. That's another thing that can be accessed that wouldn't have to come from our taxpayer pockets. In addition, we have an opportunity to work with, and as someone who runs a nonprofit and is very well connected with the nonprofits here in Lodi, I would be very excited to have a more cooperative format between the Lodi Library and our nonprofits that do work, right? Whether it might be transportation, a mobile library unit. So we're kind of leveraging the private sector here, even though it is a not-for-profit aspect of the private sector, to be able to help fund our library. But at some point too, we have to value what the library does over some of the other city services, which is part of why I'm a big advocate for reallocating funds from our police department that are emphasized into non-criminal matters, and make sure that the police can still do their job for criminal matters, but that the other areas of our city we're continuing to invest and grow in, because that is what's going to actually make our city better rather than remedial efforts when the problems have already occurred.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Mounts?
Thank you, I appreciate that. You know, Lodi has a very strange structure when it comes to the Lodi Public Library. The City Council does not oversee the Lodi Public Library. It's actually overseen by its own Board of Trustees. And they are the ones, along with the department head, bring forward a budget, and they say, okay, City Council blessed our budget. So for us, the council, to say you need to do X, Y, Z, we don't have that authority. Our only authority is to fund their requests based on their requests. And so far, everything that they've asked for, we've given them. Just this last year, maybe it's been 2 years, we bolstered up the entire section for high schoolers and created more computers and video cameras and things that they could do to produce their high school work. We've also bolstered up the small children's section and created a really fun project, which was actually done through Leadership Lodi. So we're tapping into those relationships of the nonprofits, well, in this case, Leadership Lodi and the library. You know, I am a little concerned about the idea of opening up the library to the homeless, because right now there is a real challenge in trying to make sure that they don't destroy things in the library, or in many cases destroy the bathrooms, which have cost the city of Lodi a great deal of money. So we have security there to make sure that that doesn't happen. You know, I want to speak a little bit to the Wi-Fi issue. I've been working on a project with one of our service providers that are going to be helping us with some crime fighting tools on the east side. And along with that new tool, which are cameras, comes free Wi-Fi for everybody on the east side. So we may very well be able to provide that as a piggyback service. And this will help not only every student, but every person on the east side, that if they have that phone, they're gonna have free Wi-Fi, and it will open up doors of opportunity that people with socioeconomic issues have never had in the past. So I just want to, though, before I end my statement, thank the Friends of the Lodi Public Library, because they have done an amazing job in raising funds. But I'd like to see our public library have a Starbucks inside, because I think that's going to bring people in the door. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm chuckling only because I've seen that happen.
Yeah, it's very popular nowadays.
Our last question is coming from Steve Mann. Steve?
Okay. What cuts, if any, would you make to the City of Lodi budget, or what additions to the budget would you make, and how would you pay for it? And please be specific.
And our first responder will be Natalie Bowman.
All right, thanks you guys. It's a good question. I think in order to answer it properly, I'll take a step back. A lot like Ramon, my background is in economics and international development. The first rule of economics, I actually completely disagree with, okay? The first rule of economics that you will be taught in a classroom is that there are infinite needs and limited resources to meet those needs, which is just not true. We know that if we took all of the food that was thrown away every day and we dispersed it equally, that we would in fact have enough food to feed everyone. There would be no one who is hungry. And we do actually have very high rates of hunger, not only in Lodi, or food scarcity in Lodi, but just generally as a country, particularly for one that's so well developed, we have very high rates of that. So my point in that is, when looking at something like a city budget or food scarcity across the world, however big or small you want to make it be, I'm a very firm believer that we can meet all of the needs of our community. Does it take more time and more effort? Absolutely. It's the big one I've already talked about, right? Other than our Lodi Electric and Utility, which is a wonderful job, it actually has lower rates than surrounding areas for PG&E. And I would love to see some more investment to be able to provide incentives for solar and also be able to pass those improvements on to renters. Usually those kinds of environmental efforts are kind of lost, and especially in District 4, when we have a really large renter population, we miss out on some of those opportunities for climate change and environmental support, as well as reducing the cost to the city and our community. So that's one area, right? Other than that, we have the City of Lodi's Police Department, which we've really done a grave disservice to just generally in our country, throwing every single problem that we possibly have on the police department, which was never its original purpose. So when we talk about reallocating funds and being more frugal or more being better stewards of the funds that the City of Lodi has, and I'll give you a really specific example. Yesterday, 2 cop cars pulled up in front of my house, which is across from a mall, and there was an old man who's clearly had dementia or Alzheimer's. His wife was there trying to get him in the car, and 2 police officers were dealing with that situation to help him, which is lovely. There wasn't anything wrong with that interaction, but it didn't need to be those police officers who were there. So that's 2 examples of, and there's so much to a city budget, it's hard to answer this, but I do appreciate the question, Steve. So those are 2 examples for you guys of different ways we could do better with that budget.
Thank you. Ms. Mounts?
Mr. Mann, could you please repeat that question?
What cuts, if any, would you make to the City of Lodi budget, or what additions would you make to the budget, and how would you pay for it? And please be specific.
Thank you. So to be very specific, we added some police officers to the budget, as well as firefighters, as well as fire apparatuses, and we bolstered up some parks and recreation. We did that, and thank you to the voters of the City of Lodi for Measure L. Promise made, promise kept. I am not a fan of cutting the budget in any area, but it may be one of those things we have to do as a result of COVID-19. These next couple years are going to be extremely difficult to try to figure out what we find valuable. But this is not the first time that I've lived through this. In 2007, when the bottom dropped out of the housing market, we had to cut, well, as example, our budget's over $40 million just for the general fund. It went all the way down to 38. We had to cut millions of dollars, and we did that by asking our city employees to give up rather than cutting the services to our valued citizens. I'm not sure they'd be willing to do that again, but I will say this: the city has healthy coffers. We have set aside for a rainy day. We have rainy day funds in our general fund, in our water utility, in our sewer utility, as well as our electric utility. In addition to that, the big train coming down the tracks is our pension problem. And we have set aside $10 million as a pension stabilization. We've been doing 5-year projections on our budget. And even with the foreseen COVID changes, we believe that we're not going to have to make any cuts in this upcoming fiscal year, that we will be able to ride the storm out and make Lodi the great place that we know that it is through our budget and the services of our valued employees. If I had my wish list, I would increase the budget in one area, and that would be the Code Enforcement Department. The level of housing that we have on the east side is deplorable, and I'd very much like to hold property owners accountable, and on the flip side, to provide grants for those people who need to upgrade their homes and don't have the financial ability to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Mr. Yepes, your response.
So yeah, like the budget, I guess, is the one, like the most important issue that any city council deals with. And my solution will be like, I will look first at the budget, because it's like I will look at it one time and it's so many pages. So I need to look at everything is there. And my solution is that I believe we are spending money on things that we shouldn't be spending. Like, for example, on some of the work that the police does, we can use technology. Like, for example, the thing that Mouse was talking about, the cameras, we need to use those cameras and use machine learning. So then it's not a human has to look at the videos and keep track of what is happening. A machine can be looking at the videos, and that could cost like so much salary. And machine learning is getting to the point that is almost able to detect as a human being. So my solution is to look at ways to use the funds that already have, like in the police department, the fire department, and any other department, and look in ways that we can use technology, maybe give them a little more money so they can implement these technologies. But in the long run, we can save on money, especially on salaries, because the cities are, especially the pension, is what is in the state of California with the pension. The state is not going to be financially good in the next couple of years, because the pensions are costing the state so much money, and they have invested the money of the people that have put the money in not in the best way. So we need to be saving money right now, so in the future, when we are due to pay these pensions, we have money to pay the pensions or even the services. So yeah, that's like my idea is to use technology to do things and use it so we can save money and not make people do these jobs that are sometimes very tedious.
Thank you. That concludes the question portion of this evening's program. We'll now move to our closing statements. In closing, each candidate will be allowed 2 minutes for a closing statement. So we will begin with Mr. Yepes. Would you please make your 2-minute closing statement?
Okay. So thank you for having this forum, first of all. Thank you for letting me speak here. So like I have said, I love living in Lodi. I grew up here. I'm still here, after many years. I believe that there is change to Lodi, and we need to embrace this change. Like, I know that Lodi we've been against growth, but we need to have this growth so new people, they don't leave Lodi, me included. Sometimes most of my jobs have involved living outside Lodi, and I love Lodi because I love our wineries, our Lodi Lake, and the safety. So I believe we need city council members that think big, that they deal with the issues of infrastructure, homeless, parks, but also they have a vision for the future. They have big ideas and they act bold. I believe by living in this district, I can be the voice of the change. And this election, I feel that this election is an election that asks Lodi if we want to be stuck in the past or move Lodi forward. And I hope that you consider me to vote for me and move Lodi forward. And let me finish with this thing too. This election, even if you don't vote for me, please vote, because this election is one of the most important elections of our lifetime. And regardless if you don't vote for me or whoever you vote, please vote, because this is your civil duty, and we can make this country and Lodi better. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you. And our next closing speaker will be Ms. Mounts.
Thank you so much. First, I'd like to take a moment and thank the San Joaquin League of Women's Voters, the Lodi News Sentinel, and the Lodi AAWU for hosting this amazing Zoom, Facebook, whatever kind of meeting this is. Thank you very much. I just have to take a moment and say how honored and blessed I have been to fight for the East Side. Even before I was a council member, for those of you who remember me, I was on the Lodi East Side Improvement Committee as a founding member. I was able to bring forward ideas like code enforcement and the graffiti abatement program and the gang alternative project. And there's just many more very valuable services that we could bring forward to the East Side. And I hope to be able to have that opportunity to do this. I'm excited about Lodi's future. Together we can continue to make our home even better. As an almost lifetime East Side resident, I'm grateful to have been your representative these past years and would be honored to serve you for the next 4. I know that your vote is extremely important to you, as it is to me, and I value that more than you will know. So please stop by my website at www.lodicitycouncil and check out all of my accomplishments. I'm so grateful to have the endorsements of the Lodi Police Officers Association, the Lodi Fire Department, the Lodi Chamber of Commerce, Maria Elena Cerna, and Taj Khan, the president of the Islamic Center. Those endorsements I am so valued by. And I want you to know on November 3rd, every vote counts. Vote mounts.
Thank you. And our final speaker will be Natalie Bowman. Natalie?
Thanks, Geraldine. I think most people know by now that I do not prepare my comments or my speeches, mostly because it doesn't give me the opportunity to read the room and be able to respond as authentically and genuinely as I can. So having sat here for the last hour, thanks are definitely in order. These are really hard to put on, so I appreciate it, especially to Jane and Joelle. You guys, I'm pretty sure, pulled this together very, very well at a short period of time with a lot of extra difficulties. So I do hope we get to do these again. These are also really nice to have even after COVID. They do make it more accessible. So I'd like to encourage that as well, and big thumbs up there. But for me, the big takeaway from this forum is that we have a lot of remedial policies that the city of Lodi has seen. The city of Lodi has been a sunset city, right? We have, and by remedial, I mean when we have issues, instead of going to the root of the issues with preventative programs, understanding where people are coming from, being able to scrutinize and criticize the kind of foundational things. Instead of doing that, what I hear and what I see and when I talk to people, what happens to them is after the fact, then we're coming in and trying to fix something. So any of our programs that are remedial in nature, we're missing the big picture here. And so when I talk about my policies and my platforms, it's informed by that idea and that principle that we should be striving for a better community, starting from the bottom up. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidates, thank you for your participation in this evening's forum and your willingness to run for this important office. Everyone, be sure to go to vote by Tuesday, November 3rd. We encourage you to check on the League's voter education website, voteredge.org, for more in-depth information about the candidates and the ballot measures. You can also obtain the address of your polling place at this website, as well as on the back cover of your county voter booklet. Thank you to all of our co-sponsors, Lodi News Sentinel and the Lodi AAUW. Remember to vote, and good evening.